Good day, potheads and political junkies. What's up? It's Jeremiah from Cannabis Culture magazine here. You're watching CCN Live, broadcasting to you guys from the beautiful Pot Block in Vancouver, BC, here at Cannabis Culture headquarters, 307 West Hastings, downtown Vancouver. Got a great show for you today. We have Rebecca Ambrose on the show from the Vancouver Seed Bank to talk about Health Canada's Salvia ban, a proposed ban on the plant Salvia that you may have heard of recently because of one Miley Cyrus smoking it. So they're trying to ban it now. Anything that's out there popular and has some sort of euphoria attached to it, they're afraid of. So that could be banned in Canada. Rebecca will talk about that. Who else we got on the show? We have Ernie, Yacub, and again with the sound. Oh my goodness! All right, hold on a second, guys. Always with that sound coming on halfway through. As you can tell, that's the 7-second delay. So as soon as it starts coming back to me, I hear that sound if I don't have it muted. Sorry about that. At least we know the sound's working. So, and also, let me just see how many people we have on here. Yes, we are operating, and I can see you guys in the comment section there. So if you're logging in, you can actually click on this little button here and sign in to chat with us during the show. You have to have an account with Ustream to do that, but it's easy to set up, and there's actually a link on the front page of Cannabis Culture that goes right to the place that you can sign up. So as I was saying, Ernie, Yacub, and Bill Myers of the North Island Compassion Club will be on the show talking about a raid that was, the police just came into their medical marijuana dispensary in Courtenay, British Columbia, raided that place. We'll also have Kirk Tousaw, noted cannabis lawyer, who is taking their case on the show to discuss that. And got some news for you and some other stuff. I just wanted to say a big thanks to Ted Smith and the Hempology 101 Society in Victoria for having me in Victoria last week. I spoke at the 12th annual cannabis convention there at UVic. It was awesome. It was really cool, and we broadcasted live actually from the event on Sunday, so some of you guys may have watched it. I think there was like 200 people watching it live at the time, which was pretty awesome. And yeah, that was really cool of them to have me there. I had a great time. Jody spoke there. A bunch of other people spoke there. And unfortunately right now there's not a version available online, but there will be very soon, hopefully. I'm going to talk to Ted about getting a YouTube version up there online so you guys can see that. I also took some photos that haven't been published yet, and that'll all be available on the front page of cannabisculture.com soon enough. And most of the stuff that I talk about on this show is listed in the show notes. Every time I do a show, there's a page that has the show notes, and you can actually go there to cannabisculture.com and find out more about all the stories I'm talking about here on that page. So let's see here. Yeah, we got a lot of people online. Excellent. So I guess I'll just get right into some news first off here. Oh yeah, of course, don't forget joints to smoke at 420. We'll be lighting up the bong. But first off, okay, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some news that didn't really get a lot of play here in Canada, and I didn't really see it passed around too much in the pot community, and that was recently we had a Canadian warship. And yes, we do have a Canadian Navy. We have some warships and planes and things like that. And one of those warships, a big huge one, actually went down to the Caribbean to help the United States government do a drug bust. And two of our planes as well, Aurora Long Range Patrol planes, 2 of them. And it was the HMCS Toronto, which is a the 2 airplanes were CP-140 aircrafts, but the HMCS Toronto is the big, crazy 440-foot patrol frigate that was there with the U.S. supporting them. And so I'll just tell you a little bit about this. This was a U.S.-led task force that intercepted more than 1,650 kilos of cocaine. And I guess it was in 68 bales. So here's the news story on CC about it, you can see right there. And I'm just going to show you one of these ships here. Conducted operations from a Canadian Navy vessel. So I guess the U.S. were actually running operations directly from our Navy vessel. And you know what? I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of this kind of stuff going on soon. And I don't know if you guys have checked this out, but our Canadian government, Stephen Harper, the Conservatives, have just signed a bunch of new treaties with the U.S. that would allow more of this security and prosperity partnership stuff to go on. So they're building this large North American Union, North American perimeter, North American government kind of thing where, you know, they're signing off all of these harmonization treaties with the U.S., try to make our laws more like the U.S. But these things happen behind the scenes, so these aren't voted on by legislators. These are more regulations. And we're going to talk about actually that process of regulations and how the government can change regulations without actually going to the House of Parliament, the House of Commons, and the Senate to do changes. And that's what they're trying to do with this Salvia stuff. Health Canada is making regulations to ban this stuff. And they don't even need to go to our legislators. They don't need to go to the House of Commons to get permission to do this stuff. So yeah, that's kind of a creepy thing. Our big ships down there helping the U.S. government out. I'll tell you a little bit about what they got. 68 bales worth of cocaine. That's $33 million that they supposedly intercepted down there. Now, Peter MacKay, he's our defense minister, was on television or was in the newspapers bragging about it and saying that this is going to keep drugs off our streets. But, yeah, right, give me a break. This is going to keep $33 million that they see is going to really keep drugs off our streets. Only $33 million worth, and that's small potatoes. That's peanuts. And considering they sent 225 sailors down there for an entire month with the big boats, the airplanes as well, how much did that cost? I mean, that alone must have cost in the millions just to fuel that damn ship. I mean, really, they're going down, they're spending all of our taxpayer dollars to do this stuff, and they're really only intercepting $33 million worth of cocaine. A complete and total waste of money, and it's complete bullshit. Shouldn't be happening. Anyway, there's the first news item. Okay, I wanted to quickly jump to, let's actually go and see how people what they're saying in the comments here. What's up, guys? New World Order is what I meant. Yeah, I guess there's a lot of people who believe that the governments of many of our Western nations and all around the world are trying to get together to form one large global government. I tend to have some of those suspicions myself, especially as we see more of this security and prosperity partnership stuff. There's actually a great movie done by my friend Paul Manley called You, Me, and the SPP, which if you get a chance, type that into Google and check that video out. I believe it's free online. In fact, I'm going to put it in the show notes. So you guys will just have to click a link after the show, and that kind of tells you more about what this security and prosperity partnership is. As well, if you want to find out more about it, go to Canadians.ca and read some of Maud Barlow's stuff about it. She's an activist who's been talking a lot about this for a long time. It's scary, scary stuff. They want to make us into one big country with the U.S. It's called Manifest Destiny, and it's been happening for a long time in the U.S. They've been dreaming about annexing Canada for a long, long time. They've basically already done it economically, but they're just sort of crossing their T's and dotting the I's now with this last stuff. Hello from Vapor Central. Matt Murnau from Vapor Central is online. Good to see you, my friend. I wanted to actually talk to Matt about his show. It was been canceled a few times by Ustream. Ustream is the service we're using here to do this live broadcast, and they tend to cancel the shows of people who have drug references on them, or sometimes they use the excuse of copyright infringement, and that's how they deleted our previous account. But Matt's in the audience. Good to see the guys at Vapor Central. Love those guys. Okay, well, let's get into some more, just another couple quick news items, and then we're going to bring Rebecca Ambrose on. One of them on the front page of CC right now. This is another story I didn't see around a lot that I thought was kind of interesting. And that's, you guys remember the Chilean miners who were trapped down there? There was 33 of them trapped in a mine for a long, long time. It was big news. It was on all CNN for 24 hours a day. It was one of those great distraction stories from a lot of the really important stuff that's going on, that they can be there live on the scene when they get out and that kind of stuff. I felt terrible for those guys, but reading this story that came out, I guess I feel a little less terrible for them. I guess it turns out that there's a forthcoming book by Jonathan Franklin called 33 Men, and in this book he reports that family members of the Chilean miners actually smuggled pot down into the mine shaft for them in their letters, and that they were able to go and hotbox the cave, I guess. And in the end, they stopped doing this because it wasn't that people were complaining about the pot being smoked. In fact, it was just the opposite. There was trouble because one miner complained he wasn't invited to smoke with the others, and having it only for a few members and not for everybody created more tension than it relieved, according to press reports on it. And you can go to cannabisculture.com and check that out. That story is by Ellen Comp, who does a lot of great stuff for us on CC, and she's got a website called veryimportantpotheads.com. You can check that out. Another news item here, just super quick. Ecstasy does not wreck the mind, according to a new study. I was very pleased to see the study. I think personally that ecstasy is kind of a wonder drug. It's kind of like cannabis. There's a lot more benefits to it than negatives, and I really hope they do a lot more research on this. David Nutt is a guy with a very interesting name, and he's from the UK. He's a scientist. He was their top drug scientist. He was sacked. Yes, David Nutt was sacked from the UK government because he came out and said that ecstasy is actually less harmful for people than horseback riding. And he also said that if you had the option of giving somebody a peanut or giving them a pill of ecstasy, a stranger that you met on the street, is Jacob Hunter, if you had the option of giving them a peanut or a pill of ecstasy, you should give them the peanut because you should give them the pill of ecstasy because the peanut could be much more dangerous to them because of allergies and such. So he was in the newspapers talking about this new study that there's no evidence that ecstasy causes brain damage, and this is one of the largest studies ever done on MDMA, which is the main ingredient in what people know as ecstasy. You can get pure MDMA as well, which I really question how pure these things really are anytime. But if you can get your hands on the pure MDMA, that is what they are saying here. It does not cause brain damage. And the scientists who did the study, quote from them, they said, "Too many studies in the past have been carried out on small populations, while overreaching conclusions have been drawn from them." So they're saying that those studies in the past were not adequate and didn't really, the evidence in them was suspect. So this study is really cool. Check it out on the front page of CC. That is what I was happy to see. So I wanted to bring Rebecca on now. Rebecca Ambrose is owner of the Vancouver Seed Bank and also the Victoria Seed Bank, which is now open. I'm going to just move the camera a little bit over here so we can have a little more space.
42 each, right?
All right.
42?
Okay.
Red.
I don't know.
Yes.
And we're going to puff down. I'm going to light this joint in about
what's that all about?
6 minutes if you guys are hanging out. And we got to wait till 4:20.
Alright.
Right, and Jacob and Nicole in the background, if you guys don't know them, they are fantastic activists. I'm sure that the people watching now have probably seen them pop up somewhere before. If not, we'll put in the show notes.
Alright, see you guys later.
Alright, see you guys. So Rebecca, good to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Me.
I love the Vancouver Seed Bank down here at 307 West Hastings. What's your address?
We're at
307 West
872 East Hastings in Vancouver, and the new store in Victoria is in Dragon Alley, 532 and a half Fisgard Street.
Nice. Yeah, and you're just down the street from us here. The Vancouver location is just down the street from where we are right now.
Right. It's a brisk walk.
A brisk walk. It is a brisk walk. One bus will get you there as well. But Rebecca, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this Health Canada ban that we've been discussing here. And so first off, maybe just tell us a little bit about Salvia, the plant itself, and then we'll go into the ban afterwards. So what is Salvia? What's the big hype? What is this stuff?
Salvia is a plant. Salvia divinorum is a plant from Central America and Mexico. It just looks like a regular house plant. It grows like a regular house plant. It has mild psychedelic effects when you chew the whole leaf. You have to chew a lot of the leaves. It's like a mild dose is about 22 leaves apparently. And it's used for ceremonial purpose. It's called the diviner's herb. It helps the people to communicate with lost relatives and apparently find lost items, which I think is really fascinating. Like, it's got some very cool historical significance to those people. In North America, we started to extract the leaves to make this sort of concentrate that really amplifies the psychedelic effect. So rather than having to chew like a whole bundle of leaves, you just smoke an extract, usually about a quarter of a gram of a 10 times to 30 times extract is plenty to have like an extremely intense psychedelic sort of experience that is very short-lived. It tends to last about 10 or 15 minutes and then you're sort of back from this sort of dream state. It has a reputation for being dangerous, I guess, because it can be if you're not prepared.
In what way is it dangerous to me?
Well, I think that a lot of people think that it's going to be similar to marijuana. So they're just handed a bong and told to smoke it, and they're not told exactly what the effects are going to be in terms of its differences. And it's completely a different animal than marijuana. So
it can be a lot stronger in a shorter period of time, right?
Way stronger, yeah. It's really different. I really compared it to, like, for me, a parachute jump, because I felt like gravity was just immediately 10 times stronger, and that I was like really heavy. So yeah, we always tell people be sure to be sitting down or lying down and have somebody there with you who's not smoking it, who can just make sure that you don't like try to wander off, because you lose depth perception and you just kind of like don't have a full understanding of the space around you for a while.
Right. I remember, I've only done it once before actually, or maybe twice, but the first time I did it was the strongest, and I sort of did a lot of it, and I was sitting there in my chair, and what it felt like to me was all of a sudden I was falling back through my chair, and I kind of felt flattened or something.
Totally.
And, you know, you had these visual hallucinations where you sort of see things repeating backwards.
Yeah,
or
linear imagery and stuff like that.
Right.
I thought of a lot of ironic stuff too. People tend to laugh a lot and sense a lot of the ironies of the world. I hear a lot of that as well. So.
And it's a popular substance, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of people buy it,
it's
use
popular, and I think it's like, but exaggerated in terms of its popularity to some extent, because I think people will try it once and then they're like good on it. They don't want to seek out the salvia high over and over again. It's not like that kind of an
It's not like with
experience.
smoking pot, you can do it every day and it doesn't affect the way you are and stuff.
Exactly.
Right. It's kind of one of those, you know, as you said, it's a roller coaster ride. So it's something you want to do when you're, you know, maybe with a group of friends, or not out in public with a group of friends or something like that, you know.
Right.
Right. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about, well, of course, many of the people who are watching right now probably have seen some of the press reports about Miley Cyrus, who recently was caught on tape smoking out of a bong, and then later when they asked her about it, she said she was smoking salvia, and she was tripping out and talking to her friends and stuff. So you guys can find that. I should have put that in the show notes. I will put that in the
I'm
show
sure we
notes.
can find it on YouTube pretty easily.
Right.
It's out there.
Yeah, and so how did that affect sales when that happened?
It did, because it sort of came in conjunction with a lot of media attention as well, because as soon as that broke, people started to wonder what salvia was, and then,
Of course.
you know, it
The
sort of snowballed
media
from
advertising for
there.
drugs all the time. all
Yeah,
those
in a
stories.
strange sort of pseudo way, and the media always tends to sort of spin it in a way that it must be dangerous because it's psychedelic. And it's definitely not the case. I mean, it's a very benign substance overall. The plant itself whole has no toxicity. I mean, a poinsettia plant is more toxic than a salvia plant by far.
Really? Huh?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like if your pet eats a salvia plant, I think it's going to happen too. That's
Right.
fine.
A lot of houseplants, actually. I know I have a bird at home,
Yeah.
and the bird can't eat half the damn plants. Even
Exactly,
die
you
from
got to be super careful. So, I mean, this is sort of a slippery slope, because we are not just talking about classifying the extract. We're talking about classifying the plant salvia, which is completely benign. I don't even think anyone from Health Canada could recognize a salvia plant if they saw one.
Well, and that you were saying, so really the only danger that we're talking about is this euphoria, which is a little extreme sometimes.
If
But
you're
really,
not prepared for that euphoria, you can fall. Basically, is what could happen. There was the one isolated incident that the media completely focused on. I mean, salvia's been around for 30 years, and it's this one incident that we can find that somebody had hurt themselves, and she basically smoked it next to an open window and probably like just leaned or fell out the window.
oh really? Oh, God.
So this is like a terrible event.
It's like
but-
acid back in the 60s.
Yeah,
years,
you know, but I
years.
mean, if you had somebody else with you, or if you were just sitting down like that, those are two very simple things that would have completely mitigated that.
Well, and I mean, if we compare salvia to alcohol or anything, you know,
which
and
is something I do a lot, especially as a female. You're told all of these different things that you have to do to drink responsibly, or as adults in general. I mean, you're bombarded with alcohol advertisements.
right.
It's always drink responsibly at the end. Don't forget
Yeah,
that.
right,
It's not
right. As they
alcohol's
show,
fault
you
what
know,
you
fast
do.
cars and all
Yeah,
this stuff.
yeah, party
So it's 4:20 right now. So if you guys are out there, spark them up. We're gonna spark this watermelon joint. Yes, I think I have a tethered lighter here.
Yeah, the lighter leash
The
saves
lighter
the day
leash.
again.
If you like a lighter leash, you can come down to our store at 307 West Hastings. The one I'm using is a Mark Emery lighter leash, actually.
Yeah, I have a red one that saves my life. Ooh, and this hoodlum too, I just bought it on sale.
Nice. Oh yeah, there's if you
Line for my warmth.
mention
Some
Jody's.
chill skis outside right now.
Yeah. Oh man, Vancouver is freezing right now.
Yeah, shouldn't complain, but
It is really, really cold out there. Yeah, I shouldn't complain because, as they know, the guys from
Toronto
Vapor
and people in
Central,
Ontario, I'm sure, are just like shit.
they're laughing at us, complaining about our -2 and -3 temperatures. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
literally.
wimps
It's like
for
3
sure.
outside right now.
Okay, so, but again,
no.
Probably hold something there for a second.
oh, so back to the salvia stuff. In terms of like physiological dangers, harm to your body, studies about it being rotting your brain or any of this stuff, there aren't any, are there?
No, I wish I could tell you what studies have shown, but
There haven't really
I
even
don't
been
think
that many
there's been
studies.
a single study. It's been Miley Cyrus video and other YouTube videos and
that are driving this whole thing.
I think so, yeah.
Let's talk about the Health Canada ban. What did they say exactly? What do they want to do?
Basically, Health Canada sent out a notice to interested parties saying, please respond. We are considering basically adding Salvia divinorum and Salvia divinorum A to the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, I think Class 3.
Yeah.
So they basically put out this notice saying, we're going to do this. Please contact us if you have any feedback. And so I contacted them and said, please don't do this. I would much rather have some sort of a license for retailers, just like tobacco, where you pay your annual license, make sure that the quality and everything is consistent. And, just do it this way instead, because scheduling it, like, do you guys really think that's going to make it unavailable? You know, like, how can you argue that this is going to be a workable policy? And financially, I mean, how much money are we going to spend enforcing Salvia? We're going to ask police to put themselves in harm's way to
go after Salvia dealers
grows or whatever. I mean,
it's crazy.
Definitely has potential to go very, very wrong, and it won't help any of the concerns of Canadians, that's for sure, because people will still hurt themselves. You're going to get a lot more people buying like weird stuff in baggies, like, because Salvia looks like a black concentrate extract.
Right.
So if you were to, you know, you could put a lot of stuff in a baggie and say that it's Salvia to an uninformed person, they would probably think that it's Salvia. So this could also happen a lot in the black market. It's just going to end up getting mixed with all kinds of other unsavory things.
Now, would it be hard for you to bring? I mean, would they stop this stuff at the border? You know, how would that work? Tell us a little bit about, I guess, where Salvia comes from, maybe, and some of its historical stuff.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't really know how or why Salvia started to come into North America, but I guess the psychedelic effects, you know, just sort of found their way up here. But it's a good question. The reasoning behind why it's so popular here might be because it's just not that known. It's sort of a mysterious thing. So if we could just tell people about it, know the effects, it wouldn't be such a big deal. But of course, adding it to the black market is only going to add to this mystique and mystery, and it's just going to make the whole process way worse overall.
Totally. Yeah, as these things, as they usually do, they make it illegal, then the kids are like, oh, what is that? It must be good. You know, I was just thinking about this. I'm on the SkyTrain coming to work, and I see these big posters on the SkyTrain for ecstasy, or they're against ecstasy. They say, not for me, on them. They're the Canadian drug advertisements. But it's a big, huge picture of a piece of tinfoil with all these big, massive ecstasy pills in it, with happy faces on them. They look like candy.
Yeah.
It's just completely an ad for kids.
Yeah.
You know, and if the kids didn't know what it was, they do now. They're going to look at that and say, shit, I want some of that.
Yeah, a lot of the anti-drugs ads are completely counterintuitive. It's a total waste of money. It doesn't do anything. It's all just platitudes, and it doesn't actually make a difference whatsoever in terms of what's available on the market. Like the big cocaine bust, you know, that's not going to affect street value of cocaine.
No.
Are we unable to buy cocaine now in Canada because of this bust? No. Like,
it's easier to get cocaine and pot and illegal drugs for kids than it is for them to get alcohol.
Right. And they don't, you know, drug dealers don't ask for ID. They don't care about how old your kids are. So if you're actually concerned about, you know, Salvia affecting your children, regulate it properly. Don't just say like, oh, it's classified now, so job done.
Yeah. No, and it's just one of those easy things that they try. It's a political thing again, I'm sure, right? Because they're probably getting complaints from parents or who knows what.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, as a parent, like, I guess it just all depends on your point of view, but I would definitely not be satisfied if that was the response. And, well, we're going to classify it, so there you go. Your children are safe now. You may sleep at night.
Right. It's not science-based. It's not... You know, this kind of, and they do it the same with all drugs. I mean, it's not based on the science. All science says if you really want to control drugs, you legalize and regulate them, and then you can control them. You know, if you make them illegal, it's the wild, wild west, and everybody is just out for himself. You know, and it obviously causes violence and everything else that goes along with prohibition.
Yeah.
So one more substance we don't need classified on the government's illegal list. So I was going to ask you just anything else more about Salvia. Historically, it has been used for ritualistic purposes, right? For hundreds of years, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's actually apparently one of the oldest cultivated plants, like, in history. There's no seed for Salvia. Like, it doesn't produce seed very often. It's very rare. It actually sort of grows from clone only, sort of like a spider plant, and I think that's because it's been cultivated for so long, for so many generations by humans. So it does have a long history with people, although, like, a lot of people have this really, like, surprising knee-jerk reaction and huge hate on for salvia. Like, if you mention salvia to certain people, especially some pot people, they're just like, oh,
Yeah.
that is
It's
an
not
awful
hot,
thing.
man. It's
That's
not
terrible.
hot.
Salvia's
I'm
terrible.
sure some of them are in the comments.
You know, I'm going to be hearing some of that right now. Like, that shit's crazy. It's gonna wreck your life. Well, I mean, these are possibilities and all maybe true things, but adding it to the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act is not going to change that at all.
Right.
So it's really much better if we restrict it to people over the age of 18, so like no kids are smoking it. People caught something into people under the age of 18 would get in trouble, fined at least or something. Just very similar to tobacco.
Yeah.
Tobacco, which is way more toxic and way more dangerous. Like if you were to eat a couple cigarettes, you'd probably die.
Yeah, it's really bad for you, obviously. And again, people have been using salvia for years and years and years with no harmful effects.
Yeah, it's definitely, people are throwing around the number that it's only been in Vancouver or Canada for 10 years, but it's definitely been in Canada and North America for 30 plus years. Like, there's no way that it's always only been in Canada for 10 years. And in 30 years, nobody's hurting themselves. Come on.
Yeah. If it's good for Miley, then it's probably good for us. You know, Miley seems okay.
Oh, Miley. She didn't have a bad time. That's the weirdest thing. We were talking about that. Like, the video just shows her, like,
having a great time. Laughing, and
smiling.
Yeah. Saying she's tripping out.
Kind of typical. Like, some people get really scared on salvia, but it's usually when they don't know exactly what's going to happen. So they get a little freaked out.
Antsy about it. Well, like any drug.
But weed is like that, too. I think
Sure.
it's a lot about mental state, that's for sure. Some people get all panicky on weed.
Yeah, or especially edibles or something for the first time. When, you know, it's really strong and you can't titrate your dose quite as well, so people get all of a sudden, you're like, woo, it's like you've been pushed over a cliff or something. But you always come back.
Yeah, it's important to know, like, that nothing, you're not poisoning yourself, right? Like, with weed, at least, like, when you eat too much of it, you're just like, okay, at worst I might throw up, but I'm definitely not going to die. I don't have that feeling with alcohol. Like, when you drink too much sometimes, it's like, my liver, I don't know if I can recover from this.
It's painful sometimes. A bad hangover is like halfway to death right there. So, Salvia, at the Vancouver Seed Bank, you guys have the packages of the stuff there or something like that?
Yeah, we do have the
stuff.
extract, and we do have the plants. We're actually not in stock of the cuttings right now. But
you guys sell the live plants as well.
The live plants. They're cool little, easy to take care of little house plants.
And now here, I'm just going to quickly pan to a story about salvia. There's an image on this one here. What's this one got on it? Oh yeah, that's like some of the extract stuff, I guess, and some, I don't know.
Got it. Yeah, that's the thing. Extract kind of just looks like a flattened coffee grounds kind of thing. It's
right.
like a sort of a blackish.
Yeah, I wish I had a picture of the actual leaf queued up because it just looks like
I should have brought the little baby plant. I meant to, but it does. It just looks like a little regular leaf. It has a neat sort of hexagonal shaped stem, which is cool. But it's a fun plant, clones easy to cultivate. I highly recommend getting one.
Awesome.
Get them while they're still legal in Canada.
That's right. You never know. So now, if people want to help on this one, what do they do? I guess I do have a link in the show notes to the email address to send to this woman, and
that's good. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, definitely send an email to, I believe her name is Kathy Sebastian or Bastian, something like that. Please send her an email because she's the one who is sending out the request for input. Mm-hmm. And there's also a petition online as well. So maybe we can post the link up at some point.
I'll post a link of that. I'll add that in the notes as well.
There's an online petition that I would love for Canadians to get out there and sign. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't like salvia, which is understandable, it's not for everyone, but there's lots of stuff that's not for everyone, but we shouldn't just start restricting stuff like that.
That's right. You don't just make things illegal. Oh, there was one, I forgot to mention this, but I think a lot of this has been getting some press and people have been paying attention because of some radio DJ. Did you hear about this?
He smoked salvia on air?
He did it on air, yeah, and he's like, oh, they should ban it. It's terrible. It's horrible.
And then, like, nothing really bad even happened to him on air. He was just like, oh, that was bad. That was bad, everybody. You know, it almost seemed like it was set up to... was supposed to be a scary thing, and then it sort of fizzled. It was anticlimactic.
Like, woo! Yeah, he sat there and was like, "Oh, that's horrible," but really, I mean, give me a break.
Is it really that horrible?
Yeah,
I can think of more horrible things.
No kidding. Yeah, awesome. Well, Rebecca, I really appreciate you coming on. That was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Anytime.
For sure, we'll definitely have you back. And again, give people the website addresses for the Vancouver and Victoria Seed Bank.
They're easy. It's Vancouver Seed Bank. .ca, that's the website with all of the different strains and all of the information. There is a website for the Victoria store. It's victoriaseedbank.ca. It shows all like the information of how to get there and the retail location in Victoria, but mostly links back to the Vancouver Seed Bank page for all of the plethora of seeds that we have in here. So.
Lots of seeds. What else do you guys have there?
Well, other than the seeds and the garden variety seeds, of which there's many, we have some book resources, bubble bags, some t-shirts, that kind of stuff, and all the different entheogens and herbs and stuff like that.
Yeah, you got the big herb selection as
Yeah,
well.
a lot
as well
of
as
stuff,
the herb. There's also
we don't even
herbs.
sell like a salvia online because it's hard for me to realistically ensure that we're selling to people over 18. So the salvia is not available online. You have to come into the retail store and prove your age. But there you can buy scaledium online, blue lotus flower, all the different legal herbs that have mild hallucinogenic effects.
Cool.
Yeah, good
So
time.
Vancouver Seed Bank for all your herb and hallucinogenic needs.
Yay!
Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca. That
No
was really cool. We'll
problem.
definitely have you back again soon.
All right.
And you can hang out if you want for the next second. If you don't, it's
Sure.
cool.
Well, I'll sit over here maybe and watch.
Okay,
if you
cool.
want.
Awesome.
All
Sure.
right.
That's totally cool. Maybe I should give you the bong to, if you want to hit, have some of this, some more of the
Some
watermelon
water.
that's in here. Exactly. Feel free, Princess.
Don't you
our
have a
wonderful
big
Canadian
bong?
high guy.
Jeremiah, come on now.
Oh yeah, no, this one is the small one. It's only 36 inches tall.
It's long enough for my arm to reach and light.
Exactly.
my
So
lighter.
next on the show here, for the last half an hour, we're going to talk with the North Island Compassion Club posse out there. That's I'm just gonna get my phones and stuff ready. We're also gonna have Kirk Tousaw come on, and that's Ernie, Yacub, and Bill Myers, who are going to be talking to you from the North Island Compassion Club. We're going to get them all queued up. And while I'm queuing up the telephone lines, I'm going to play you guys a little news clip here. This is from A Channel News on the island, Vancouver Island. And this is their little news segment about the recent police bust on the North Island Compassion Club. Now, actually, I'm just going to set this up first. So, in Canada, compassion clubs and marijuana dispensaries are still illegal. So we have a medical marijuana access plan in Canada, the access regulations, MMAR, and those allow for medical marijuana patients to either grow their own pot, have somebody else grow it for them with their license, or you can order really crappy pot directly from Health Canada. And they provide it a service of this really gross, it kind of looks more like the salvia when you get it, though it's really brown,
irradiated.
gross, irradiated, yeah, and they used to grow it in a mine in Flin Flon, Manitoba, and I've read that that's been shut down, but yeah, so the Health Canada stuff is gross. So in Canada, there's a lot of these dispensaries that have popped up over the last 15 years. Now, these dispensaries are actually illegal, but the cops, for the most part, leave them alone. There's been a few court cases here and there around it, and you know they usually get left with very little penalties, that kind of stuff. They allow them to continue to operate. Now, this year, in 2010, there's been some raids on medical marijuana dispensaries. In Toronto, the Calm Cannabis as Living Medicine Center was raided. It's a really old one. They've been around for 10 years or longer. They also raided a number of dispensaries in Quebec. So that was kind of disconcerting. And now there has been other across Canada raids over in the past, but very, very few. And so in 2010, we saw more of these raids than we've ever really seen before. And so there's a lot of people who are scared about that stuff. But fears had subsided a little bit over the past while until last week when the North Island Compassion Club was raided by RCMP in Courtenay on Vancouver Island. So I'm going to go to this video, and while that's happening, I'm going to get everything set up in the background. We'll get these guys on the show. So check this out. A News.
RCMP need to show them some compassion. Police executed a search warrant at the club's headquarters in Courtenay and seized marijuana, cash, and even cookies. RCMP say the law is clear. The North Island Compassion Club was operating illegally and needed to be shut down. But as A News reporter Gord Kerba shows us now, the club defends itself, saying its purpose is purely medicinal.
This is what we're used to seeing when RCMP make a move against marijuana. Harvests of large plantations in remote locations or busting grow-ups in converted homes. But on Friday, this Courtenay basement was raided. It's home to the North Island Compassion Club.
People need to get access to their medicine. And the raid, of course, is giving is a problem. Think about it as in terms of the only pharmacy in town being closed down.
Police say they moved in with a search warrant after a number of complaints about the club. They say some came from neighbors and others from the local medical community.
For them to be selling marijuana is illegal, and like I said, that was a concern that was brought to us by the community, and we have to follow up on that.
The club's manager and its employee are now facing charges of possession for the purpose of trafficking.
This is a plant. It's a plant that grows wild, and it's been a medicine for thousands of years. Why is it illegal?
The Compassion Club says it's been operating in the Comox Valley for the past 10 years, providing a valuable medical service.
What right does any suit have to tell me what kind of medicine that I can use? Why should I use pharmaceuticals when I can use something that's virtually no side effects at all?
Susan Dreen is a former nurse who says medical marijuana is the only thing that's keeping her pain and various problems under control.
If it wasn't for the medical marijuana, I don't know what I would do for the pain or to help me get through the day, because when I do not have it, I want to curl up in a ball and hide myself away from the world.
Manager Ernie Yacub disputes the RCMP's claim that the club is involved in trafficking, and its 230 members are trying to keep on the right side of the law. He says backlogs with Health Canada and expenses are making things impossible.
We are deemed to be criminals for providing medicine to people in need because the government program sucks.
Compassion Club members are encouraging the general public to seek out more information about the benefits of medical marijuana. Police are encouraging the club to seek out more information about what's legal and what's not. In the Comox Valley, Gord Kurbis, A News.
Members of a medical marijuana club in the Comox Valley.
All right. So that was the A News channel clip that you guys just saw there. And I managed to get the phone system all set up here properly. So we should have everybody here now. Is everybody here? Kirk, Ernie, Bill?
Yeah, I'm Ernie's here. I think Bill will be with us in a moment.
Oh, sure. That's cool. Kirk, you there?
Yeah, we're here, Jeremy.
Awesome. Now, hopefully everybody can hear you guys properly. If not, I'm sure I'll hear about it in our comments section quite quickly. So if you guys out there are watching the show and you can't hear anybody speaking, please quickly give me the heads up in the comments and I will adjust our sound system. But it looks like it's working pretty good. So, guys, thanks for coming on the show. I wanted to talk to Ernie first about exactly what happened during the raid and how the cops treated you guys, and Ernie, what you think this is stemming from. So just talk a little bit about that. But first off, maybe before you give us about the raid, tell us about the North Island Compassion Club and what you guys have been doing there.
Okay, well, we've been providing cannabis, medical marijuana for the last 10 years in the valley to our members, and starting off as quite a small club, started by Nori and Evers about 10 years ago anyway. Last 10 years here in the valley, we've got good relations. We live quite close to town, a couple blocks away from downtown Courtenay. It's kind of a mixed residential, commercial neighborhood, and we have good relations with a number of our neighbors right across the street. There are, I could see 3 apartments, neighbors that we have great relations with. Anyway, so, and that was one of the things that came up, or one of the things that apparently the police said, was that they were acting on complaints from neighbors.
So
anyway, over to you. Sorry, Jeremiah.
Oh, Ernie, I just wanted to ask you, tell us about the raid then, and so what happened? The police just came right in, or?
Yeah, actually, Bill's the best one to tell you about that end of it. He was just downstairs. I was actually lying in bed in my bedroom because I was in some severe pain, trying to deal with that. And anyway, there were 3 volunteers in the club at the time, and Bill can tell you about what happened down there.
Yes, it was pretty well straightforward. He ran straight down the stairs after he entered the building, ran straight to the office like he kind of knew where it was, and looked at me and said, "Police." And all I could think to say was, "I see this." And at that point, then reality hit. There was two members, club members. I should actually say there was one club member and a friend applying for an application to the club here. They were both caught up in the initial investigation that was in the office where I was. When the officer came in, I basically had some the obvious, so that was pretty well got cut and dry. After that, they just basically talked to all of us separately, and after they figured everything out, they started hauling us down to the police station. Myself and two other members of the club here.
And there were charges laid against you guys?
Venture, actually.
There were charges laid against you?
Yeah, and basically, they came. Another officer came up the stairs and roasted myself and another roommate, Tim, and they took us down, booked us, charged Bill and me with possession for the purpose of trafficking, and let the others go with no charges.
And let me jump in there, Jeremy. It's Kirk here.
Kirk Tousaw.
Because just to be clear for the listeners and the viewers, there is no procedure by which police lay charges in British Columbia. The procedure in British Columbia is that police will arrest, will advise the individuals that are arrested why they're being arrested. In other words, what law they're suspected of violating, and then subsequent to that, will forward the file to Crown Counsel, who reviews the file and makes a determination of whether or not to lay charges. And so, at least at this point, we're unaware of whether or not charges have been approved and have been laid. Prosecutors retain discretion to not lay charges for a variety of reasons, including a determination that it simply wouldn't be in the public interest to prosecute the particular offense. And so, obviously, I think my position, and I'm sure my client's position, is going to be at the outset that it's not in the public interest for one arm of the federal government, namely the Department of Justice, to prosecute people for violating the marijuana laws when that activity can be linked to bona fide medical purposes, particularly when another arm of that same government, Health Canada, continues to administer a program via the medical marijuana access regulations that I believe to be in violation of the Charter, and that certainly is significantly more restrictive and fails to serve the vast majority of medical cannabis users in this country. It's sort of like one arm of the federal government reaching out to punish critically and chronically ill Canadians and the compassionate people that take a lot of risks to assist them, while the other arm is administering a program that's only served 6,000 people in its 10-year history.
Right, it just seems insane. But Kirk, can you put this in context for us? So, I was telling the viewers beforehand that according to our laws in Canada, these dispensaries still are illegal. They're largely left alone by police and the government. So why is that? And, there's been a few of these raids in 2010. Is this something that we're going to see more of?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, the first part of your question, certainly in the Barron trial, when we had the assistant deputy chief of the Victoria Police. The Victoria Police Department was aware of the VIX and its activities. It was not an operational priority for that particular department to commit police resources to investigating and putting together a case against the VIX. Certainly, each police department is entitled to work on its budget the way it wants to. I happen to think that it's really particularly in these economic times, not a proper use of police or prosecutorial resources to either investigate or prosecute people who are engaged in bona fide medical marijuana activity. Whether or not it's technically illegal, whether or not these folks committed criminal acts is for a court to say. I don't want to prejudge that issue. But I certainly think that, police can exercise discretion in what they investigate, and Crown can exercise discretion in what they choose to prosecute. And certainly we would expect that in Canada there are much bigger problems for the police and the Crown to deal with than the provision of medical marijuana to persons who require it for medical purposes.
Right.
Well, actually, I'd like to say something here, in terms of the interest that the police might have in busting us. I have a news release from the local paper, and the headline says drug offenses tumble as overall crime falls again. And this was 10 days. This was a report that the RCMP made to the local council here, and that was 10 days before we were busted. So it's quite possible that they're looking to maintain their budgets.
Right. Kirk.
And who and of course if you're going to be going busting somebody, I mean, are you going to go after a Chinese gang with guns, or are you going to go after a compassion club, peaceful compassion club? I mean, what's the easiest bust in the world?
Right. Now, and in the past, have you had any run-ins with the cops there before? This is the first time, isn't it?
Well, it's the first time the compassion club itself has had a problem. And they've known about our existence. We told them when we were in the railway station. We told them when we were doing deliveries. We told them when we moved in here. We wanted to be, we wanted to be on good terms with the police, and we wanted to be cooperative and peaceful, and that's the way it has been for about 7 years. Now, the founder of the club, Noreen Evers, was growing for the club and another licensee at her farm, and she was busted. And I think perhaps that's what the cops are referring to when they say that. And she was busted on 2 different occasions. So I think that's what they're referring to when they say that the Compassion Club has been busted 3 times, which is incorrect.
Right. And so now you guys are open again, aren't you? You guys, you haven't let this really get you down too much, have you?
No, what we're doing is we're making sure that our members get the medicine that they need.
Excellent. Well, that's good to hear, man. That's very good to hear. So, Kirk, do you think you could speak a little bit to, the larger situation here in Canada with some of these raids in 2010 and how this relates to them, if at all? Why are these raids happening? The ones we saw in Toronto and Quebec, are these related at all to the ones happening here, or what's going on?
Well, it's really hard to speculate. Certainly, I think that there has been a shift in prosecutorial attitudes towards compassion clubs and compassionate growers. It used to be the case that it was easier to negotiate with Crown to make these charges not proceed if you could demonstrate that this was truly compassionate activity. That seems to be much more difficult now. As you say, there's been a number of raids of compassion clubs across the country, and perhaps the police feel emboldened by the decisions in Svetopolis and Barron, which, although holding portions of the MMAR to be unconstitutional, ultimately did result in, at least in Mr. Barron's case, a conviction, albeit with an absolute discharge granted, meaning no criminal record imposed. So at least a finding of guilt occurred, but no criminal conviction imposed on the absolute discharge. Maybe the judicial decisions that have, at least for the time being, blessed portions of the MMAR have certainly perhaps emboldened police. Health Canada, for its part, has taken the position consistently that compassion clubs are illegal and that the only lawful way to possess marijuana is within the confines of the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act and the MMAR. So, hard to say what's going on. Certainly, I would say the people in Ottawa are undoubtedly, the Conservative government of Canada is undoubtedly opposed to the operation of dispensaries, any increased access to marijuana, and for political reasons just as much as law enforcement reasons. I mean, when people get used to the idea that marijuana can be sold in a proper, controlled, safe, regulated, open, transparent, manner, then people begin to get comfortable with the idea that perhaps it can also occur that way for non-medical use of marijuana, and people become accustomed to it. And we've seen this in the states in the United States that have enacted medical marijuana laws. So, hard to say what's going on, Jeremy. It's just a shame that after 10 years of litigation, after all the fighting, after all the good work done by compassion clubs across this country, good folks like these continue to get arrested and patients continue to be deprived of easy access to a beneficial and safe medicine.
Right. And, of course, this isn't the only problems that medical marijuana users in Canada are running into now with the government. There's these problems with Health Canada delays in renewing people's MMARs and issuing new ones as well. So maybe Ernie, is it Ernie on the line now?
Yep, I'm here.
Ernie,
actually, I did want to comment on, on what it means to our members and to us and to our community.
Right.
It scares the hell out of people. I mean, people are scared to begin with. They're scared. Some people are scared to ask their doctor about marijuana, even to ask about it, or to even be, for sure, they're afraid to let their doctor know that they use cannabis, marijuana, or even that they might want to. And beyond that, when they do start pushing, perhaps to get legal, the doctors refuse them. And in fact, Bill's situation is exactly that situation. And so what we have is people who are scared, sick and scared to begin with, are scared even more.
Right. Well, and for sick people, I mean, we're talking about people who are suffering from all different kinds of ailments. The last thing they need is something more to worry about. I mean, Ernie, you're saying that, well, how many members do you have there at this society?
We have around 230, like current members, and about 100 of them are regular users of the club, and the others are, from time to time as needed.
Right now, and there's no other dispensary around in your area, is there?
No, we're it for north of Nanaimo. That's pretty well 2/3 of the island, Vancouver Island, and we're not even touching a bit of the need around here. I mean, as I was saying about people being scared, people who have jobs are afraid of losing their jobs if anybody gets wind of, and in fact they end up doing pharmaceuticals instead of cannabis because of that. So and we're it. So it's like I said, like I told the newspaper, it was like shutting down the only pharmacy in town and trying to keep it shut down.
Right. Now, there was some negative comment in one of the stories that we put up about your particular dispensary that seemed a little bit unfair, and it said something along the lines of you guys not discriminating or just deciding who, on your own, who gets to come and buy pot from you. But in our conversation, you sort of told me that that's not true. How do you guys decide who gets to purchase marijuana?
We have an application process and a waiver that they sign, they basically sign up as members of the club and authorize us as agents to provide for them, and they need a proof of condition from a medical practitioner.
Right, so they need verification from a doctor that they actually are suffering from this condition.
Yeah, we need to know that they have what they say they have, and that they are who they say they are. And from then on, our position is that we're providing this herbal medicine that they use to self-medicate. It's their responsibility how they use it.
Right. So now, Kirk, I just wanted to go back to you for a second about other dispensaries and sort of what other people should think about this, or what we take away from this. In Vancouver, we have a lot of new dispensaries opening up. I think we have 7 of them here now. And, you know, I hear more about new ones opening all the time. I just looked into it last week, and there seems to be 30 or more of them across Canada right now. So should people be worried at those dispensaries, or?
Well, look, anytime you're going to engage in activity that can attract the attention of law enforcement authorities and possible prosecution, you should go into it knowing that there are risks. You know, hard for me to say whether there's a trend of increased enforcement, but certainly people would be well advised to be very careful in their activities, do their absolute best to make sure that they're only servicing people with bona fide medical need for cannabis, and probably doesn't help. Probably wouldn't hurt you to have a lawyer on retainer and to sort of advise you in your processes as well. I mean, it's nice to know that you can make that phone call if things go the wrong way.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that is don't be afraid, because and it's really interesting what this bust has done for our club is it's riled a bunch of people up, and we've got a bunch of geezers here that are ready to rumble.
Well, that's great news. I like to hear that.
No kidding. Well, exactly, and they can continue to try and put us down, but they're not gonna win on this one. We're gonna keep coming back. Sick people need their medicine, and the government coming down and shutting things down is not going to stop it. It's just going to make more of it happen. They're just spreading it around. So really,
and how about them Egyptians, eh?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, there's a great example of how you can't put the people down. We're seeing all across the Middle East.
Everywhere, right throughout the Mediterranean and Wisconsin, and now the Comox Valley. So we're next, eh?
Exactly. All right, man. Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, this will pan out. We'll definitely get more information to the viewers about what's happening with the North Island Compassion Club. And as time progresses here, I'm sure we'll hear more news about if they're charged and so on and so forth. But
and give them our website and Facebook. Will you?
Sure. Throw them out there. What's your website address, guys?
Oh, it's cannabisforhealth.ca.
Cannabisforhealth.ca. You can check the North Island Compassion Club
and
out there.
And you can get to our Facebook that way too. Cannabis for Health.
Well, thanks a lot, Ernie, for coming on. I
thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And Kirk, is there anything else you wanted to add or throw out there? Do you have a website address you want to give away?
Well, two things. I'd say if people care about this issue, they should be writing to their members of Parliament, and they should be writing to the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Health, urging the end of prosecutions for medical marijuana producers, distributors, and possessors, and substantial change to the current Health Canada regime. And if people want to keep up on our activities, check out the Beyond Prohibition Foundation at yprohibition.ca.
Awesome. Much appreciated, Kirk. Thank you very much, and we'll keep watching real closely on this one. Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
All right, guys. Well, that's the latest from Cannabis Culture News Live. It's 5 o'clock, so I'm going to wrap it up right now. We're right on the money this time. If you want to find out more about what we talked about on the show, go to the show notes on cannabisculture.com. And I'll keep you guys posted on what's happening with the dispensary raid there and on what's happening with the Salvia ban. Again, if you go to the article in the show notes about Salvia that I posted there, that one will take you to a place where at the bottom of that article there's actually a link in that article where you can send your comments into Health Canada.
And try your call again. If you'd like assistance,
Excellent. See, it'd be funny if I could turn the camera around and show you guys the system that I'm using here and actually see that I have 2 telephones taped to the top of my monitor that I'm producing the show on right now. So we're right here, ghetto style, on East Hastings or on West Hastings, 307. Awesome. And yeah, I was noticing here in the comments people saying there's some background noise and stuff. We're filming right in the office here, so yeah, there's all kinds of, there is background noise. It's definitely not a studio environment. I'm thinking about moving into more of a studio environment. I like doing it here in the office. I like doing it here because there's people coming through. It's sort of impromptu and off the cuff, and I kind of like it. It's got that old school Moses Namer much music style thing going on, but it does get a little uncomfortable for the listeners sometimes if there's a lot of chatter in the background, especially when we've got multiple phone shit going on. It's really funny actually, but we're doing the best we can at the moment here with our studio space, but I'll consider moving to a more of a studio friendly location. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Much appreciated. I love having everybody tune in live for the show, and you can watch it over the internet over the weekend on the front page of Cannabis Culture. Also check out some of our other videos on Cannabis Culture. Jody Emery's regular show. Marijuana Man's got his show back now, so that's on the front page at the moment. Check everything else out, and I'll be back again next week. Another day at 4 p.m. Pacific time on Friday. Alright guys, I'm going to go out with a bong rip here of this nice watermelon out of Princess, my 36-inch high guy. Peace.